Hello, this is David Russell. I'm back. This is lesson 1 of an ownership culture. And I want to discuss the differences between accountability and entitlement to kind of kick this off. So a definition of accountability from dictionary.com, number 1 here, the state of being accountable, liable, or answerable. And so when we're talking about a typical accountability culture, we basically are talking about something where management must hold employees accountable or performance drops. If they're not chasing after them, performance drops. Employees do what's necessary, not what necessarily is best. And employees don't feel it's their company. Oh, this is Dave's company, or this is Susan's company, or this is whoever the owner is, or the executive, or whatever. And employees have responsibilities, but they'd really like more authority. They feel like they have to ask for permission too often. This is the typical accountability culture. I'm not saying these are all the attributes, but these are some of the key ones. Now, the problem with top-down accountability, although it's basically good, it takes more effort, it slows growth and profits, there's gaps that increase as companies grow, where I've got a little more accountability with this group than I do with that group. And quite frankly, it's impossible to perfect. And as you're grasping from the slide here, it doesn't scale well. Now, that doesn't mean an organization can't get huge with a top-down accountability approach because they've got some real drivers at the top, but it's not really being its best. Now, when you have accountability only, my way or the highway type of thing, pushing you all the time, it fuels entitlement thoughts. So employees feel like their rights are more important than maybe doing that work they need to do, staying late one night for a special project, whatever it might be. They have rights. People don't really think about rights in a culture that's an ownership culture, where everybody's on the same page, pushing in the same direction. But when we've got entitlement, oftentimes people are doing enough to get by rather than really their best. They're not fully bought into the vision and meaning in the company because it's not connected with them individually. So there's gossip, there's ungratefulness. People aren't thankful for what they have. The paycheck isn't enough. They're not thankful for it. And the recognition's not enough, and this isn't enough. And really, they disconnect their wants from the results. So there's really a missing driver here, component here. And those people that promote the entitlement side, so you flip from one extreme to the other. One extreme is these accountability culture where you have these leaders that are driving everybody, taskmasters, micromanagers, and they're, making certain everything's done. The opposite extreme is people that promote entitlement. And they believe these rights are more important than anything else. And they fanatically insist self-esteem trumps all. Okay? It's more important. You got to have your self-esteem. You got to feel good about yourself. And you don't in an accountability culture. And some of these people will even say failure is not acceptable, even when someone's failing. It's just that's not logical, okay? When you're failing, you need to know you're failing so you can learn and move on. They'll deny failure is a reality. They lower the standards. Now, we had that happen with the SATs years ago, that people weren't performing quite well enough on the SATs in America, so they lowered the standards. So actually lower scores got in what would have been lower scores now are higher scores. A lot of people don't know that. Some people say success is not important. Well, it depends on how you define success, and everyone should be rescued. Okay? So everyone should be rescued. Everyone should be able to work in your company. That's not true. Not everyone should be able to work in your company. You don't have a family. You have a team. People that perform need to be on the team. What we need to realize is defeat is part of life. It's part of our learning process. And defeat can be inspiring. You can get up and move again. You can get out of that hole you fell into when you're taught how to learn from defeat and apply what you learn as you try again. As you saw in an earlier slide in the introduction, I've got 43 years business experience. At this time of this recording, I'm 59 years old. I've made a lot of mistakes. And I try to learn from them and apply what I learn and move on. Now, Judith Bardwick, the author of Danger in the Comfort Zone, has this quote, and I'm going to read it just in case you're listening to this instead of watching it or reading it. Entitlement is an attitude, a way of looking at life. Those who have this attitude believe that they do not have to earn what they get. They get what they want because of who they are, not because of what they do. When this rich nation stopped requiring performance as a condition for keeping a job or getting a raise, it created a widespread attitude of entitlement. Entitlement destroys motivation. It lowers productivity. In the long run, it crushes self-esteem. Now, the interesting thing is, entitlement is a self-focused belief. I deserve this, okay? And yet it crushes self-esteem in the end. You know, I deserve it. I just talked about that. That, whatever it is not my responsibility. You have 30 years experience. I have 3 months experience. Treat me as an equal. Really? Why? I treat others in the ways that are best for me, not necessarily the way I should. My self-expression is more important than company culture because, hey, I've got America's 3 common values. It's all about me. Number 2, it's not my fault. And number 3, hey, it's not my problem. So I don't have to fix it. I can just complain about it. And my job does not define me. I don't need it. Well, then go get another job. Okay? So let me give you a Dr. Spock logic, and this is my call on it, okay? I'm not saying he said any of these things. But I'm saying if you remove emotion and self-focus, we're all fortunate to have the jobs that we have and the growth potential those jobs offer us. And if there's no growth potential, maybe you need to look for a different job. The next bullet there, anything that negatively affects our culture or our client experience, speaking as a business, is our responsibility as an employee throughout the organization. Number 3, you will not be treated as an equal until you are an equal, but you should be treated with honor, dignity, and respect at all times. So don't confuse the two. You should be treated with honor, dignity, and respect, and you should treat others that way, even when you don't like them. But it doesn't mean you're going to be treated as an equal when you're not equal. That's illogical. Next, we treat others how they want to be treated. Okay? We don't think everybody thinks like we do. Next, our culture is more important than any individual because we're working as a team for the good of a higher purpose or of the group or of the people we serve. And our job, lastly, our jobs partially define who we are in the workplace. And they define some skill sets that we have. But certainly it's not a total representation of who we are. Entitlement fails because it's me-centric, and me is very limited. People are relational and seek meaning. And if we look at a quote from Abraham Maslow, who did the hierarchy of needs, he once said, the only happy people I know are the ones who are working well at something they consider important. So what is important? We're going to get into that. But right now I'm going to dive into some scenarios and games focused on accountability and entitlement. So I'm linking them right here so you can kind of go through these before you take the exam. Now, the rules for these questions are going to be the same all the time. Be candid. And if you think someone hasn't been candid or taken responsibility for their answer, you can respectfully ask whether they're overlooking something. But hey, no attacking. That doesn't work. We're trying to encourage, we're trying to explore, to get ideas, to connect ourselves to more meaningful work. Isn't that a great objective? We all want to do more meaningful work, right? So let's do that respectfully. So you're going to have to walk through these questions at a pace that makes sense for you and stop the video. I'm going to read them off so people can hear them, but you'll probably stop the video and kind of answer them either individually or as a group. But the first question, how do I do my best when no one is looking? Think of giving yourself an example. What's an example of when I did my best when no one was looking? Maybe 2 or 3 examples. Number 2, what do I do that's quote unquote good enough rather than my best? Think of 1 to 3 examples. Number 3, what 3 ways do I feel this is my company? You should be able to articulate that. So 3 ways you feel this is your company. List those. Number 4, in what ways do I feel this is not my company? And not only that, don't just list the problem. What's the solution? What could I do to change that? So once again, maybe 3 ways, might be 1 or 2, but a maximum of 3 ways that you feel this is not your company. You're not connected, or you don't feel that they care about you or respect you or whatever. But what can you do to change that? Not just the problem, but also the solutions. So go ahead and list those and discuss them. Each time, discuss these. And 5th, what parts of my work would I like to have more authority, and what would be the benefit to my coworkers, our company, and our clients if I got it? So not just, hey, I want this, give me this. Selfishness, but you're saying, hey, if I could make this, if I had more authority to make these decisions, there's a benefit. And discuss that, not just for you, but for others. So once again, 1 item, 2 items, maybe a maximum of 3, write them down, talk about those. Number 6, what parts of my work do I feel my quote-unquote rights are more important than something else? Do you have 1, 2, or 3 of those? Go ahead and list those and then discuss them. Number 7, is speaking negatively about our company, a coworker, or a client, or something at work need to stop? Okay, do I need to stop doing that? Am I accidentally gossiping or disparaging, putting down somebody behind their back? When I hang up the call after speaking with someone, do I say negative things? Do I have a habit of doing that? Okay. Am I doing it? Make a list, 1, 2, or 3 different ways I might do that, or you might do that. And how do you change that? Number 8, what are the primary things I want in my career to find it personally meaningful? I mean, if we're going to shoot for meaningful work, let's define it. Is there 1 thing, 2 things, maximum of 3? List those and then discuss them. Number 9, how grateful for the things I want in my career, how grateful am I for the things I want in my career that the company provides? List those. Once again, 1, 2, 3 things. So you're grateful. How grateful are you for those things? What are those things? How are you grateful? And then talk about them. Number 10. Yes, we're going to continue here a little bit. What have I asked for recently that was not linked to my performance and or a benefit it will provide others? In other words, I just wanted it. Okay, what have I asked for? And I didn't link it, so I could have maybe, linked it to performance or linked it to a benefit. 1 to 3 things, discuss it. Number 11, describe my thoughts on employee failure, including my own. So I would suggest there you choose 1 situation. What is an example of employee failure of others? And 1 situation maybe that's an employee failure of your own. And list that with an example. And what do you think about that? Maybe what did it cause? What was the result of that failure? And maybe what could have been a different approach to avoid that situation? List that. Talk about it. Number 12, have I ever worked with someone who was me-centric and entitlement-focused? Describe what it was like without mentioning the person's name. If possible, it'd be at a different company or a different work group, but don't mention the person's name. Talk about that. Number 13, how could we replace top-down accountability with employees taking more responsibility? Even in the best company cultures, there's room for improvement. Can you think of one thing that might change that you could talk about? Maybe there's 2 or 3, no more than 3. Make a list, talk about them. Number 14, what metrics can we track together with transparency to confirm employees are delivering excellence in our new areas of responsibility or our existing ones? Okay, any area of responsibility. How can we share these for group accountability that we're working as a team? Make a list of 1, 2, 3 ideas. Talk about them. And last but not least, number 15, what will I do to help coworkers avoid entitlement behaviors? We're going to talk more about this stuff through the lessons, but what do you got so far?